I've been mentoring for coming up to 9 years, which just blows my mind. And in my time that I've been a coach, several of my clients have grown their business to $100,000 a month or more. Some of them coming from $20,000, $30,000 months. And I was just reflecting on what a cool accomplishment it is to hit that $100,000 a month mark. And I was contemplating if there are any patterns in who they are, what they do, how they show up. And I noticed that there are some common traits. So I thought I'd record a podcast episode to share with you the mindset behind hitting those $100,000 sales months. In today's episode, as I shared in the intro, I'm going to be talking to you about some of those clients of mine that have hit that $1 million mark, who've hit their first $100,000 month in business. And in particular, I'm looking at the things that they haven't done and the things that they have done. And importantly, looking at who they are. Because at the end of the day, it's less about what you do and more about who you are being that creates the results that you desire. Now, before we dive into it, I did just want to share that if you are wanting to elevate your business in the remaining quarter of 2024 or coming into 2025, I'd love to chat about how we could work together. So my one-on-one coaching, which is what these clients have all been, is for multi-6 and 7-figure business owners. And this is talking about how to scale your business profitably. So when I work one-on-one with my clients, we are working very closely together with a focus around driving to the next level of profit, ideally while working less hours. Because at the end of the day, that is ultimately what we are trying to create in our business: financial freedom. So you don't want to hit these money goals and you're burning yourself out in the meantime. So if you are at that mark and you do want to find out a little bit more about what it looks like to be working together, there will be a link in the show notes for today's episode. If you aren't quite at that level of business yet, I do also have other ways that we can work together. I have my Level Up retreat, which is going to be 2 days where a small group of us are spending the time in person working on your money mindset and helping you to map out your business growth plan. And I also have my VIP days, which is a day where we hang out one-on-one and really look at your specific business and how we can tailor solutions for you, for your own growth that works in a way that works for you and for your clients, for your audience. After a VIP day, you also get a whole month of support from me. So you don't just walk away from the day with your action plan, you also have that ongoing follow-up support. So I'll share the details for each of these offering in the show notes for today's episode if you do want to find out more about what it could look like for us to work together. All right, let's dive into the mindset of these $100,000 a month business owners. Firstly, I want to break some myths that might instantly spring up for you when you think about the kind of person that is hitting $100,000 months. Firstly, you might instantly think there's only certain industries where people make that kind of money. You might also have a story that springs up. I don't want to make that much money because I know that they work so hard and I don't want to work that hard. I want to be able to spend time with my family. Or another belief that you might have is that there's a certain way that you have to grow your business. I don't want to do that because I don't want to have a big team, is a story that I hear a lot. Now, I want you to notice what the first stories that popped into your mind were, because this might actually give you some clues as to how your own mindset is holding you back from growth. Whatever those stories are your limiting beliefs around why this isn't possible for you. And the irony is that these stories are actually what hold you back. If you believe to hit $100,000 a month or more, I've got to work really hard, you're probably going to sabotage that outcome because you don't want to have to work harder than you're already working. If you have a belief that no one in my industry makes that kind of money, again, you're not going to be looking for the opportunities because you're already sabotaging your own success. Another belief that you might have is there's a certain way that I've got to do this. I've got to hire a big team and I don't want to do that. I don't like managing people. So again, you hold yourself back from what is possible for you. I just want to bust all of these myths from my own experience working with $100,000 a month clients, multiple of them, is that firstly, they were all from very different industries. You might think, oh, coaches make a lot of money. Actually, these businesses are from all different kinds of industries. The second thing, there was no method that we used that was applied across all of these different businesses. In fact, when I think about them, they've all scaled their businesses differently. Some through launching courses, some through premium price points, some through building a team. There's lots of different ways that you can skin a cat, and there's lots of different ways that you can scale a business. And the last myth, and these are just obviously a couple of examples, you might have other stories that are holding you back, but the belief around working really hard. Again, my experience has been through the clients that I've supported is that most of them were actually able to work less hours when they were earning more money, because they're able to invest in support in the business and outside the business to give them back more time and freedom. So I think that it was really important to lay those foundations around the myths, because that's the first thing that we need to tackle is, what are the beliefs, what are the limitations that you have that are holding you back from even working towards this goal? So what are the things that I have noticed? What are the traits? What are the things that they all have in common that's helped them to get to that level? First and foremost, and this is going to be a bit triggering, but bear with me, because I know that this is something that I always used to struggle with. I'm like, but what did they do? Was it Facebook ads? Did they go viral on TikTok? What's the actual thing that they did? So little of the outcome is actually related to the strategy. It is more about having the $1 million mindset. And let me explain a little what I mean here. You may have heard this story before. If you have, bear with me. Let me tell you about a man called Roger Bannister. Now, there had been a long-held record for the mile mark, for running a mile that was over 4 minutes. And that record had been in place for decades. No one had been able to run faster than him. And then in the year 19, Roger Bannister broke through that record. He ran just under 4 minutes for the mile. And that was a huge accomplishment, because it had been believed that this was an unbreakable barrier. Okay, so this long-standing record has finally been broken. And what I tell you next is going to blow your mind. 46 days later, someone else beat his record by a full second. And then a year later, 3 people beat the 4-minute mile in a single race. Since then, there have been thousands of people who have broken that barrier, the 4-minute mile. And this just goes to show how much of success is less about the physical or the strategy. It's about the mindset, about the psychological barrier, rather than the actual doing. So much of it comes down to, is this possible for me? Do I believe that I can earn this amount of money? Is this something that I am willing to do? Do I align with this vision? As a coach, as a mentor who's been doing this for a long time, so much of the work that I'm doing is getting my clients out of their own way. When they feel scared, when they're like, I can't do this, when they come up against the hurdles, they're inevitable. It's working on the mindset stuff. The next thing that I've noticed about these clients and about a lot of my biz friends as well who've achieved huge financial success is that they are happy to invest without a guarantee of return. They are willing to take calculated risks. And obviously, a lot of these clients have this in common because they've chosen to invest to work with me. And I'm a high ticket coach. I'm not the cheapest coach out there. I would like to say that I'm very good at what I do. I do believe in some respects, you get what you pay for. There are some, of course, examples where that, but I am a high ticket coach. And a lot of the clients that have come to work with me have lent into that investment. And after we start working together, there are other ways that they are willing to lean into their business as well. Investing in other parts of their business, shaking up their business models, doing things really differently, taking those calculated risks, and be willing to actually put their money where their mouth is. The next thing that I've noticed about successful business owners is that they are willing to fail. A lot of times we look at success stories, we look at successful people, and we think, wow, everything just works out for them. But the truth is this: the reason why people succeed is because they are willing to fail. You can't have one without the other. Let me share some examples of people who failed a lot before they made it. I'm sure you've heard of Thomas Edison, the guy that invented the light bulb. Did you know that he had over 1,000 failed attempts before he actually invented the light globe? He just kept on going. Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC, had 1,000 rejections of his concept before someone finally said yes. The business owners I know that are running million and multi-million dollar businesses, they keep getting up, even when setbacks happen. They have resilience and they have adaptability. So if something happens and they get a knock, they get a blow, they have a failure, something doesn't go to plan, they don't throw their toys in a cot and shut down their business. They go, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to take this information and use it to do something differently? Another thing that I've noticed that they have in common, that my clients have had in common, is discipline and focus. This is almost a little bit ironic because a lot of entrepreneurs actually have ADHD. Something like 80% of female entrepreneurs have ADHD, and pretty high in men as well. So when I say focus, I don't necessarily mean that they just sit down and work without any sort of distractions, but they do have the focus on where they are going. They do have that really clear vision for their life, for their business, and they keep on going, having that focus. On a practical lens, and like I said, honestly, I do believe that mindset is most of the work. It's the hardest bit of the work, is mastering the mindset. Now, of course, there are practical tools that come over the top as well. And this is where, like investing, are you willing to go and hire team members with no guarantee that they're going to work out? Are you willing to lean in and invest in your marketing or other areas as required in your business? On a practical sense, the key things that they are excellent at doing is that they understand their customers very well and what their key problem or pleasure point is. And then they are excellent at marketing that and selling the concept, the transformation, the desired outcome. So to sum up everything that we've covered today, the foundation for your $100,000 months is mindset. And this is why it's the area that I personally keep leaning into again and again, both in terms of how I spend my time and also how I invest in my business. I know that mindset is absolutely key. And the strategy, of course, is very important, but it's just the icing on the cake. Hopefully today's episode has inspired you that $100,000 months are possible. And I bet you something I've seen again too, when you crack through a new income level, It's once you've done it once, it's so much easier to hit it again and again. It's always the first time getting past the mindset struggle of it that's the most challenging part. Hopefully, this has inspired you to go step into your next level, and in particular, to do the work on your mindset. As I mentioned at the start, if you did want to find out more about what it would look like for us to work together to help you grow your business, I'd love to invite you to check out my Level Up retreat, to join me for a one-on-one VIP day, or let's have a chat about what it could look like for us to work one-on-one in coaching. All the links will be in the show notes for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there is anyone you think would benefit from this episode of the podcast, please make sure you share it with them or post on your social media and make sure you tag me so I can say a big thank you. Really appreciate you listening to today's episode of the Clare podcast, and I will chat to you again next week. Adios.